kind of getting into what dues cover and what dues don't cover and all those types of things. We're part of a condo association. The condo association is like a business, right? It's got its income and it's got its expenses, and they've got to balance and look good. Member late fees and interest. That's the one thing I just mentioned. I mean, you've got 180,000 at Polynesian is expected. Let's see, your Grand Floridian, they're expecting close to $100,000 in late fees. Breakage income, basically any room that was allocated to member inventory that is not booked at day 60 before check-in is released back to DVC. And DVC has to basically do two things. They have to try to rent that room for cash. And then from there, they have to take a certain amount and apply it towards member dues as revenue. When they finally hit a cap, it's at 2.5% of a resort's budget. There's a couple different components, but once they hit the cap, then Disney gets to keep the rest on all that stuff. And if you'll notice on most resorts, they usually get pretty close to capping out breakage every year for each one, respectively. Then we have the member annual dues assessment. That's what we're paying in. That's the biggest revenue component. And then now we have parking revenue, which is somewhat new, obviously, in the last couple of years. You know, a lot of people hate the idea that Disney's charging for parking, but as far as DVC goes, it's actually a good thing for us. Take Riviera, for example, where 60% of everybody that's staying there at night is not a DVC member, pretty close to it. All those people that are paying to park, we get that money. Disney gets to keep a certain percentage based off of how they have to manage things and stuff like that, but a lot of it goes towards just paying the resort down in terms of our dues. So the cost components, some of the big ones. Number one is usually transportation. Housekeeping usually right there with it. When it comes to transportation, we have to pay for a certain amount depending on the resort. So like at Riviera, it's only a DVC resort. So guess what? Member dues are paying for the entire transportation cost related to Riviera because it's 100% DVC. It's like Riviera, you're paying for the Skyliner access and things like that. If we go to a place like, say, Beach Club, where we're sharing a bus stop with the actual hotel, members are paying an apportioned amount based off of how many, a number that Disney comes up with is how much we have to pay towards that total cost. Administration and front desk is usually kind of like number 3 in terms of the cost components. I cross-referenced 7 resorts, and for next year, they're actually administration and front desk went down everywhere. So those are the 3 big ones. Some of the other ones are just really simple things, like the legal costs is like $1,000 on every budget I've ever seen since the very beginning of time. Except for at Riviera, it's $2,000. Not really sure why it's twice as much at Riviera for the legal team. But insurance is another component that does go up. Car insurance goes up, so does the cost to have insurance at these places. When you see things like member activities, it's all the little things they do at the resort, scavenger hunts to coloring and craft rooms and those types of things. And then some of it goes into like even things like at the pool and activities out there. Security stayed the same, if not maybe went up.
More probably. Yeah.
Had to do extra work there. The condominium associations that we're part of are not tax exempt. Even though they're not for profit really in the sense that you're really supposed to offset costs with revenue and it's supposed to be pretty much a wash, they're not tax exempt. So every resort pays federal income tax based off of the revenue component. The management fee is a flat 12.5% based off of the total resort's budget. So that will fluctuate just by when the annual budget goes up, management fee goes up a little bit too, just because that's a flat set number. The reserves component, and I always tell people the reserves are there. We have to fund the reserves budget based off of timeshare law and Florida law. So the condominium association must keep a certain ratio that they keep up with so that when a major expense comes due, replace a roof, repave the driveway and parking lots, remodels, refurbishments, those types of things. When those items come due, we actually have the money to pay for them when they actually happen. So they must keep up a certain percentage.
It's like your escrow account for your mortgage. When you first set that up, you buy your house, they collect upfront a few months depending on when that bill is coming due. And they hold that. So when your bill comes due, they've got enough to pay it plus any increase. And they still have this reserve account that they're sitting over here holding on to.
It grows with interest. So that part's nice. And so that's one of the revenue components is we actually get interest from it. They're sitting there looking at what something's going to cost in the future and how many viable years they have left before they're going to have to replace it. And they have to keep up with those costs. Usually it's the remodels. That's the biggest thing that they plan for is the every 7 and 14 year refurbishments. And then things like roof replacements and stuff like that are even farther down the road. These are projected budgets. This is what they're expecting to see. If the actual budget at the end of the year, when they go back and audit their expenses is less, they have to roll that forward. There's still 2 months, almost 2 full months left in the 2020 year. They have the projected budgets for next year, but we don't have a completed budget for 2020. They actually haven't gone back and audited what expenses were and actually can sit there and say, we spent this much on this line item. We spent this much on this line item. So by the annual meeting, I'm sure they'll have that number pretty well fine-tuned what it'll be. Those are kind of the things. There's a lot to it. I promise you, Disney's not trying to steal your money and sneak it away and put it somewhere they're not supposed to. Keep in mind, people, this is highly regulated stuff. And we don't get to see the actual really detailed budgets and how much money was spent on every little thing, but this stuff is audited by the state. They have to pay for an audit every year to have this checked on. So if Disney's trying to funnel money somewhere secretly, it's pretty tough.
If you found this video helpful, please click the like button and subscribe to the DVC Shop YouTube channel. We have some great educational videos coming out soon, so be sure to turn on notifications to be the first one to know when they're released. Additionally, feel free to join our email newsletter by going to dvcshop.com/signup or clicking the link in the description. You'll get exclusive discounts and you'll be the first to know when we release new and price-reduced DVC resales and rentals. Thank you for watching, and happy traveling!